This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. And we're delighted you're here. We're broadcasting at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Studio A. There's a link to your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com. Podcasts are free. Alex is producing the broadcast in Minnesota. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. And for those of you new to our class, there are well over 150 of us here at USAPrepares.com. And we're experts in various areas. We're all innovators. We're dentists, medical doctors, engineers, surgeons, CEOs, broadcasters, researchers, physicists, farmers, and inventors. And we're students rising to become instructors. None of us is capable of holding down a job. This is USAPrepares.com. With me is Gene Kelly. He's the president of American Gunsmith Institute. He's made his own way. He's an entrepreneur. And today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, what it takes. What does it take to be an entrepreneur? Are there characteristics? What drives a person to say, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I can't report 9 to 5. Or what do you do if you lose your job? Welcome, Gene Kelly.
Well, hello there, Vince. How are you doing today?
I'm well. You're in California. I'm in Missouri.
Yep.
And we're both at work.
Yep. I'm sitting here in the middle of a beautiful vineyard in the Napa Valley. Unfortunately, it's in the People's Republic of California. But other than that, It is a beautiful, beautiful morning. I've got hot air balloons going up and over. And, you know, doing what we do, we can live pretty much anywhere we want. But that's choice, isn't it?
It is choice, Gene. And, you know, I had no idea. If you want to tell a little bit of a story, I had no idea when I was growing up that I would be behind a microphone. I had no idea when I was in high school or college. I had no idea when I literally had my first job, second job, third job. I actually did those kind of things like a lot of us. But I had no idea up until about 2.5 years ago that I would be behind a microphone. I was totally unprepared for it. I'd never studied anything about it. I had no idea what to do. I didn't know how radio worked. I didn't know how commercials worked. I had no knowledge other than being a listener to radio, how radio worked. And I guess maybe that's one of the threads that goes through our broadcast class today, and that is, you know, if you have the desire, even if you don't have the knowledge, you can learn what you need to learn to do what it is that you have the desire to do.
Boy, you just took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say, Vince, you didn't have any of those other skills you were talking about, but I guarantee you had one thing, and that was burning desire. And I would encourage anybody listening, if somebody says that they can't do something or they're thinking to themselves that they want to do something, that's where it starts, is you've got to have that desire. From there, you know, there's whole toolboxes of ways to learn different skill sets. And in fact, that's a lot of what we do is, you know, we teach those skill sets. I started off being a gunsmith. That was my burning desire, was to be a gunsmith. and I achieved that at a pretty young age. I was laughing when you were saying pretty unemployable. I've only been employed once or twice where I was working for just a wage, where it wasn't like a commission or partial ownership or something like that. And that's, again, kind of how you're wired. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's kind of what we do at the Get Prepared Expo. We compensate based on performance, and everyone involved with our Get Prepared Expo and everyone involved with USAPrepares.com way exceeds everyone's expectations, and because of it, they get compensated past their expectations. It's really neat. But, they work really, really hard, and they work because they want to. Last night, let me just give you an example. Last night, we have a Monday meetup, and I invite our class, which is our listeners, to come to a restaurant, and we have a seminar on something important. Last night we talked about how the media is manipulated, mainstream media is manipulated, and how to learn how to read the code words and learn how to decipher the real information and learn about the lies through the absence of saying anything. And people lie without saying a word. They just avoid saying things, and those are lies by omission, and those lies by commission. So we talked about that. And then after the meetup, some of the staff said to me, now these are all volunteers. They said, can we have about 10 minutes of your time? And this was, maybe 9 o'clock. And so that 10 minutes, I didn't get home till 1 o'clock in the morning. And that's because they had they had so many things that they wanted to tell me that they wanted to do at the expo. They had all kinds of suggestions to make it better. And nobody left, and nobody said, geez, it's midnight, it's after midnight. Nobody said that. It was unbelievable, and that is pure passion to deliver excellence, and that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And these guys are volunteers. It's really neat to see this.
Another thing it tells me too is that they're like us, because I know you, Vince, is that we're lifetime learners, and I think that curiosity and that in part of that burning desire, you've got to want to be a lifetime learner. I'm learning stuff every single day. I'm frustrated if I don't, and that is really one of the keys to success, I believe. Curiosity and a desire as a lifelong learner. You were just talking a moment ago about how you didn't have these skill sets a few years ago, and yet you had all of a sudden a burning desire to do this, and because you're a lifelong learner, and I know you are, you were able to quickly reach out, assimilate, and find and assimilate the skills that you needed. And I applaud you for being able to do that. Not many people could jump like you have in this very short period of time and be taking such a demanding, attention-getting position in radio here. So, Mike, kudos to you. Hats off. But don't you agree that lifetime learning is like one of those things that people really need to have? And I think it's even been suppressed a little bit.
Well, it really is important, Gene. And as I look around the studio, one of the things that I don't do very well is have others do things for me. I feel that I have to be involved and I have to understand how things work. So when I got involved in radio, I did lots and lots of reading about microphone mixers and microphones and dynamic ranges and decibels and milliwatts and, all kinds of electronic terminology that I had to learn and ramp up on very, very quickly. And I was resistant to just hiring out those skills. I wanted to know how it all worked for myself, so that if something went wrong, and believe me, things go wrong here in the studio, and I need to know how I can repair it, because I'm the last guy, meaning there's nobody. I'm in the studio all by myself. There's nobody in in the Missouri studio with me. Alex is 800 miles away. So if something goes wrong at my end, I have to fix it. So I want to know how that works. And that's just the way I'm wired.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the West way a lot of entrepreneurs are wired. We're talking about independence and entrepreneurship and how we get to pick where we live and what we do. I mean, and really, people would disagree with this if you just stopped them on the street and talk to them. They say, oh, no, I don't have many choices in life. And I would disagree. The one thing that's still left in this country is that you do have choices about what you go do for a living. Mm-hmm. And I've had people that were students before give me a number of reasons at first why they couldn't become a gunsmith, or why they couldn't afford some training, or why they couldn't change where they were living. And the reality is, once we worked through it, they saw that, yeah, they did have control. If they chose, back to that choice thing, if you have the burning desire, and then you make the choices, then you can move forward. And they were able to get the training they needed. We've got, thousands of students and success stories all over the place. Many of them become famous unto themselves. And you're right, just, that learning how to do those things makes you independent, but it all starts back at that beginning with choice and desire. So,
Gene, I see people, I don't go there very often. I mean, I have an allergy to going to the Chinese factory outlet. Some people call that Walmart. But, I see people working there, and they're not youngsters working there, as greeters. And I'm wondering, do they do it because they like it? I don't think so. I think they do it because they have to. I think they do it because they run out of money before they run out of life. And so that... Yeah, you're right. You want to talk about that?
Oh, man, I tell you. I think right now, in the people that are 50 years and older, even 45 are starting to see it. And especially in this economy we've been going through, that there is just a lot of fear out there about, as you said, running out of money before out of life. You want to pick up on that in a moment?
Yeah, let's pick up on that. Gene Kelly's with us. There's a link on the website, page 1, Gene Kelly, under instructors, and post on page 1, Gene Kelly. We'll be right back. Yeah, I love talking about entrepreneurship because it's actually a license to be free, and you don't have to do anything to get the license other than have the desire. It's the neatest thing. Gene, I wake up in the morning and I look forward to doing what I do. I do exactly what I want to do. I don't have a boss. I do it because I want to. Let me tell you a quick story. I went to my 25th high school reunion, and this was a school. It was an all men's school, and there were, at the 25th reunion, there were doctors, medical doctors. There were lawyers. These were doctors who were the head of their own businesses. They had their own clinics. There were lawyers who were in charge and owned their own law practice, and they had other lawyers working for them. There was one guy who had a construction company, but it wasn't just any construction company. It was probably the largest road construction company in several counties, maybe even the state that he's in. And one person owned an automobile dealership. And so these guys had risen to what I would consider pretty high levels of success. And there were stockbrokers there. It was really neat to see these guys again. And they had an informal vote as to who was the most successful. And I was a farmer at the time. I had I'd given up designing computer systems for some of the banks in this country, and I became a farmer, and I'd been a farmer for quite a while. And they had this vote, and they voted me the most successful person. Not, Gene, not because if you added up all the digits that my stack of digits would have been the tallest, because that was absolutely not the case. It was based on freedom. It was based on I could do whatever I wanted to do because I really didn't have somebody telling me what to do, meaning I didn't have a boss that said, you will be here at this time in the morning and you will stay till this time and this is your lunch hour, and if you are sick, you better really be sick because if you're faking it, we're going to fire you. I didn't have any of that over me, and they thought it was the coolest thing, and they voted that I was the most successful, but in money terms, absolutely not.
Well, there are different measurements of success. And at some point, obviously you need a certain amount of money, but at some point, do the zeros really matter if you're enslaved versus having the freedom to do what you want, go where you want, and so on. As you know, because we've talked about this, I just spent the last year traveling the world with my son. He graduated from high school last year. I asked, he was accepted to universities and so on. But, education, formal education, while important, I think is less important than, getting certain skill sets, learning different trade skills and so on. But also travel is an important part of education. So we literally spent a year going around the world, him working with me as we filmed and did other aspects, meeting business people and traveling through like 20 different countries throughout Europe, all of South America, all through the Asia and so on. So, but that doesn't happen by accident. I made a choice. This was important. I had a desire to do the best for my son, and I structured my business in such a way that I could do that. And I have a number of employees, like 30-some employees, but and a lot of subcontractors and what have you. But it's a matter of choice, desire, and then, organizing your life. Well, you can do that if you've got certain skill sets. Again, being a lifelong learner, which I think is key, along with that curiosity to always be opening doors and seeing what's behind them, gave me that skill set. And you talked about being the more free of this group of people because you made your own choices. I totally agree with that. And people just don't think that's readily available to them, and it is.
And when we come back on the other side of this break, Gene Kelly, let's talk about what prevents people from being an entrepreneur and how they get right past that and become one. Gene Kelly, he's the president of AmericanGunsmith.com. We'll be right back. Class, Gene Kelly's with us, and he's the CEO of AmericanGunsmith.com. And we're talking about entrepreneurship. What does it take to become an entrepreneur? Start your own business. Take control of your own destiny. Maybe provide supplemental income if you do have a job. Many of us who have become entrepreneurs have done it as a sideline while we're working, and then cut the cord. Got our entrepreneurial or our enterprise working, and then said, you know what, it's working well enough. I want to go full time, and stop working at the job and start working full time at our own business. Gene, what is it that you've heard people say to you that the reasons that they say they can't do it?
Wow. They point to things outside of themselves. The responsibilities to the family, which I totally understand, to the job they have, to where they live, to the education they currently have, all these different, other things that they, quote unquote, won't let them do it. And it's all baloney. It really is. I have proven this time and time again when people told me I couldn't do something. I went and did it. But it starts making a choice that is pushed by that burning desire and to achieve something. If you don't have desire and you take a milquetoast kind of approach to achieving something, I don't care what it is. You know, you want to be a great hunter, you got to work at it. You want to be a great race car driver, you got to work at it. You know, you want to be good at physical things. You want to be. I just read on an airline magazine about a guy that is an amazing bodybuilder now, who is paralyzed in a wheelchair from the waist down, and he chose to do it. I mean, this guy is ripped, and so he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the old days. Okay, you know, obviously you can do whatever it is you want to do. So that, I mean, that really is the beginning. And it's not like you have all this confidence to begin with, or that you've got this huge burning desire to begin with, and so on. It's like a seed. The seed gets planted. Maybe it gets planted right now when people are listening to us, where they say, you know, I've always wanted to do it. And so the seed is there, and we water it. And, you know, every day when people listen to your show, they're getting watered a little bit more and fertilized a little bit more so that can grow inside them. But as that grows, they now need to do the next thing. Take action. They need to take action. Now, if that action is, well, like in the case of our gunsmithing students, they enroll. They enroll in our courses, and we've taken away all the risk that we give a 1-year money-back guarantee on our courses because we want to take away everything that stops them from moving forward. So they enroll in a course, and whether it be, you know, our gunsmithing or whether it be any of the other courses we teach, like welding, machining, plumbing, electrical, etc., or whether it be something totally unrelated, computer science, automotive, you know, whatever it is, you need to move in gathering that information. Then the next step, as you keep watering, right, gathering that information continues to water that choice, that waters that burning desire, and now at some point you got to stick your foot in the water. That's that additional action. As you said, many people started stuff part-time. I mean, I think back to, you know, Steve Jobs working out of his garage with his partner there, creating Apple. Well, I bet you, if we check, they had a day job to begin with. Almost everybody had a day job that they had to start with, some way to feed themselves. But once they saw some success, you cut that cord. Get the, you know, proof of concept is great. Prove it out. But once you get some success coming, the only way you can really get to the point where you and I have achieved, where we have these kind of choices, is you're going to have to cut that cord at some point. Now, that point might be 5 years away. We have some students, particularly our gunsmithing students, they're already working a job that they love. They've got good benefits, they've got good stability for their family, and they're looking 5 years down the road. Okay, fine. You know, take that choice, make that choice, build on that burning desire, water the seed, get education, build on that, get your foot in the water, working evenings and weekends, and in this case, gunsmithing. And by the time that 5 years comes around, and quite frankly, for most of our students, it becomes way before the 5 years because they get so much work coming in. But they can cut that cord and become a full-time, self-directed entrepreneur. And that whether it's a small business just to satisfy their needs by bringing in some extra money or retirement income, or whether it's to build something. We have many of our students go on to where they want to become, where they become manufacturers. I myself took that path. I was a gunsmithing student, and then I became a gunsmith, and then from a gunsmith I worked in several shops, and from there I saw opportunities to make parts. I created a parts company, manufacturing firearms accessories. Then from there, I became a manufacturer, became a licensed manufacturer. And from there, I had many other ventures going on. And one of them that I had, again, lifetime learner, right? I'm a lifetime learner, and I'm curious. So I created this educational business because the demand was there. People were asking me, how can I get this training without leaving my job? And that's what we developed. We developed this ability for them to get educated without leaving their current situation. And that really dovetails into what I believe, that they can make the choice. They then push that desire, they can get the education, they can water that desire, and then they can grow and get their foot in the business and get free. I mean, we were talking before the break, one of the breaks, about the fear many people have. I see this all over the place, especially in people that are baby boomers, that of running out of money before they run out of life, as you said, and being stuck as a greeter at Wally World or some big box place that they're not, if they want to be there because they want the social aspects, great. But, man, I sure hate to be there at minimum wage because I had to be. So, I'm encouraging people to make choices, feed that burning desire, get some education. And when I say education, I'm not talking about an MBA or something like that, which those are almost a dime a dozen anymore. Something like, what we teach is trade skills, because that's being lost in this country. Who's going to rebuild America? Try and find places where you can learn to weld and machine and learn plumbing and electrical and carpentry and masonry and gunsmithing. Well, that's what we do. And I do it because I'm passionate about it. I want to give people the skill sets to break free from the tyranny they have day-to-day in life, and to go on, rebuild this country, and especially in the gunsmithing, protect our freedoms. It doesn't do us any good if nobody can fix anything. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for a second.
Gene, I heard you say MBAs are a dime a dozen. Now, I have one, but I've often thought about calling the university and saying, do you guys give refunds? Well, I'm serious. I have said to Mrs. Finelli, I don't get it. I don't understand this economy. It makes absolutely no sense. Stock prices are going up and up and up. And I was taught that you need to have customers to sell products, to make a profit, to have people believe that your stock is going to be worth more and more and more over time. I don't get it. So that's where I wonder if you guys issue refunds on degrees. But how about those people, Gene? How about those people who are in this fraternity? And I think it's a really large fraternity. It's called coulda, shoulda, woulda. And how many people have you heard say, I could have invented that. I could have done that. That could be me. That should be me. But they didn't get off the couch.
Well, absolutely, man. Good grief. And you know what? Not only do I hear that, I hear the excuses, and I can see that they're going to be in that place at some point. And there is a window of time that goes by where you need to jump. You got to pull the trigger. It goes back to, again, we keep repeating the formula. Choice, the burning desire, getting educated in the right skill sets, and then putting your foot in the water, action. But going back one second, just because on the MBA thing, we have what I call right now educational inflation in this country. Here's what's happening. If you all recall the housing bubble, what drove that? Okay, the government, our friends in the government, created, they said everybody needs to own a home. So they created low-interest loans, and they pushed everybody, whether they were qualified or not, whether they had the money management skills or not, whether they had the income or not, into making it very attractive for them to buy a home, giving them 110%, whatever. Well, easy money, cheap money, drove up home prices because there's all these buyers competing. So we created this bubble. Boom, it burst, created a lot of pain. Well, education right now is the same thing. They decided no child left behind. They're going to send every kid to college, whether they should or not. Well, what's happened? Okay, college prices have gone up to where they're like $50,000, $60,000 a year for private school education, and not a whole lot less for a lot of state universities and so on. And when they are less, it's only because the taxpayers paying the other part. Well, why are these prices so high? Because of all these low-interest loans. We've got over $1 trillion right now in student loans. So it's pumped up the price of this education. But at the same time, you have this educational inflation where having a regular BA isn't good enough anymore, supposedly. Well, because they don't know how to do anything, okay? And as a matter of fact, I tell graduates, they're a little shocked when they hear me say it, when they're applying with a job for a job with us. I say, look, employers only want to know three things. What do you know? What have you done? What can you do for me? What do you know? What have you done? What can you do for me? Anyway, when we get back, then we talk about those job skills that they ought to have so that they can be independent.
Let's talk about that. Gene Kelly, AmericanGunsmith.com. We'll be right back. Class, we're going 2 hours today with Gene Kelly, and we're talking about entrepreneurship. And if you listen to the commercials right here on Genesis Communications Network, all of those companies are entrepreneurial companies. And so are some of the broadcasters. You've got Alex Jones, he's an entrepreneur. Joyce Riley, she's an entrepreneur. Sam Bushman, he's an entrepreneur. And then if you know, to drop some names about people I know that are associated with USAPrepares.com, Stephen Ewer of Synergistic Nutrition, you know, One World Way. Mike Knox of White Harvest Seeds, the freeze dry guy. He's an entrepreneur. Missouri Storm Shelters. Those companies started by somebody starting those companies. It wasn't a miracle. It was passion, followed by energy and the right team, and making a lot of the right decisions based on research. And you know, some of us make decisions that we wished we made a little better, but we recover from them and keep going. And that's what we do. And Gene Kelly said the neatest thing. The three things people want to know if you're looking for a job: what do you know, what have you done, and what can you do for me? And we're going to talk about the skill sets that you need. Gene, let's go with the skill sets.
Right on. Carrying on from what we were just talking about, you know, all that education inflation that's out there, and yet they're teaching the wrong things. Right now, see, everybody thought everyone should be, quote, a knowledge worker, right? Be a knowledge worker, and you do all the stuff over the Internet. Well, guess what? Everything can go one direction over the Internet, can come another way over the Internet, and it's all being shipped over and coming back from India and Philippines and elsewhere around the world as these guys, you know, rightfully so, compete for a chance to improve their life. You know, their burning desire on their end, right? So, but we've been teaching the wrong stuff in these schools. Right now, you know, a kid comes out of college and he spent, you know, $250,000 in student loans and for his education, and what does he know how to do? Not much. So he's got a piece of paper and no job skills, and therefore no job, and he's lost at sea. And basically, they're getting, you know, minimum wage jobs or a little bit better than that, but they're stuck. On the other hand, people that have real skills: welding, machining, plumbing, electrical, carpentry skills that are more than just, bulk fabrication, but real skills, masonry, all of these different things, locksmiths. You know, try and find good, skilled workers these days. I know of a gentleman, one of our instructors actually, who teaches welding. He's in his 70s, and they keep pulling him back in from retirement to do certain welding jobs because he can't find anybody else who can do it. They're importing welders from overseas. This is like wrong. We need to have the skill sets here. Well, I just read how many bridges alone in the United States are either falling apart or are at risk. Well, just to rebuild those bridges would take an amazing workforce of skilled workers in many of those trades I just mentioned. But you know, it's just, again, what are people learning? So if people right now are making a choice for change in their life, whether they just want to be independent, be able to go off the grid, be self-reliant, never have to work at Wally World as a greeter, whatever that might be, you know, making that choice, or if the choice is to better themselves, to give their families more opportunities and so on, having real skills is going to make all the difference in the world. And so, and that's what we teach. And of course, you know, we have those those training programs through our accelerated training institute, the Accelerated Technical Training Institute teaches those skills, and then the American Gunsmithing Institute teaches them the gunsmithing skills so that they can, either way they choose to go, they can have skills that are very real that they can apply to the marketplace and act on their choices. And we can talk about how they can do that and the end result of a lot of our students have gotten.
Let's do that. Let's talk about how, and we'll drop some names. I'm going to drop a name of someone who's been on TV, one of your students. I'm Vin Finelli, Gene Kelly. We'll be right back after the top of the hour news and commercials. We're talking about starting your own business. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. Gene Kelly's with us. We're talking about entrepreneurship. And, Gene, you're going to be presenting a seminar at the Get Prepared Expo, a live teleseminar about entrepreneurship on the weekend of July 19, 20, and 21 here in Lebanon, Missouri. We're going to do a live teleseminar with you. You're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, and I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely. We were just talking about those skill sets that break everybody free, and then we were talking about the gunsmithing that we, AmericanGunsmith.com, where we teach, those gunsmithing skills. And then you said something about you were wanting to hear about some of our students.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got to tell you a quick story. I got a call several weeks ago from Louisiana, and Rob Roy called me, and he said, hey, Vinny, how's it going? And, we're just chatting. And I said, so what's new? And he said, well, you got a TV? And I said, no. And he said, well, I'm going to be on TV in about 10 minutes. And he was telling me that one of your students, a gunsmith student, was going to be on the Discovery Channel's Sons of Guns, and he's been on many times. A really good guy, Rob Roy. He owns a gun shop, and he's risen to stardom on the national scene through the skills and his passion and his training. So, that's just if we want to drop a name, there's one right there.
Yep. Rob is a good guy, and we actually connected him. The producers came to me at the SHOT Show and asked about, some potential gunsmiths to be on their show. And we ended up connecting Rob with them. He's quite a guy. But, he exemplifies what I was saying. He wasn't a gunsmith at one point, right? He did many other things. Right. But at some point, he made a choice to be independent. He had desire. And then he got education, in this case through us, through American Gunsmithing Institute. And so he became a gunsmith, became very successful at it, and was living his dream. And then he had the next desire, which was when the opportunity came up to be on TV. And so he worked on that and brought his skill set to the show. And quite honestly, because he had studied our program, he told me that, I don't want to diss anybody, but a lot of quote gunsmiths out there are just part swappers. They don't really understand what we teach, and that is design, function, and then repair. You can't fix it unless you understand how it works. So we taught him that, and by having that skill set, he was able to go on that show and perform very, very, very well. And I guess he's been invited back a number of times. So that's pretty exciting stuff. We have a lot of success stories. In fact, we have a whole booklet that we include with one of our information packets that is just, success stories from our students that they've sent us letters and told us. We have one student, Jan Merson, out of Southern California. And, of course, California, gun-wise, is kind of a mess legally, but he's the guy we call our $100,000 a year gunsmith. He's told us he's making $100,000 a year in gunsmithing, and that's pretty doggone impressive. but it just shows what you can do what you want. And if you know Jan, I've interviewed him on the air a couple of times since he's become one of our celebrity gunsmiths. He made a choice. Again, he was in a totally unrelated industry, and he made a choice, had the desire, got the education, and again, in this case from us, AmericanGunsmith.com, and he then went on to perfect what we had taught him. And now he's, got literally bursting at the seams, just moved to a bigger shop and has hired some help to work for him. So kind of living the entrepreneurial dream there. Another gunsmith we have by the name of Paul Smeltzer. He's down in the South as well, and he made the decision to go from being in the forest business. He was, working for a forestry company, forestry management, to decide to be a gunsmith. Again, he made a choice, had the burning desire, got the education, and this is a formula no matter what field you want to go into. We just happen to teach, gunsmithing, and then we teach all those other trades. As I told you before, electrical, plumbing, welding, machining, locksmithing, carpentry, masonry. So, in fact, if anybody wants to know information about those, they could go to instanttradeskills.com, instanttradeskills.com. But anyway, these students, all of them, just have the same traits: like choice, desire, education, curiosity to learn more, and then action. And that's what it takes. And you've got to be willing to stick yourself out there. I mean, for every success I've had, I've probably had a couple of failures. But the failures run off my back like, water off a duck, because I've learned that that's what it takes to move forward and to achieve success, to achieve that autonomy, that self-reliance, and so on. And if I can encourage people to do one thing, blow away that fear. You just gotta, you ask yourself, what's the truly the worst that could happen, and even if that worst that could happen is, oh my gosh, I'll be homeless living in a cardboard box. Really? Will you really be that bad? No, you won't. But if you were, so what? You can then break away with these skill sets. You can break past that. So you gotta make a choice. You got to feed that burning desire by listening to shows like this, where you water it, you fertilize that burning desire, you learn more, you get the education and the skills you need for these trades, you become independent, and you take action. You step out there, and you have to move past fear. Everybody's got fear. I mean, I've talked to some of the most hardcore soldiers in the world, special operations individuals, people in special operations groups of various militaries, okay? That's about all I can say at that. But they experience fear as well. One of the biggest differences is they made a choice. They've got a burning desire to perform. They do constant training and continue to build their education physically and mentally, and then they push past their fear because that choice and burning desire gives them the energy, the power to push past that fear. So if somebody's listening today and they want to become independent, they want to become self-reliant, make a choice. Feed that burning desire. Reach out and get some educational skills. And I'm not talking about just college or business degrees and things like that like we talked about, but real skill sets, things that will never go out of style. You'll never have to count on somebody else to do. You won't have to pay somebody else to do. They'll be paying you. You'll be in demand. Get skill sets, and then take action. Just do it. And that's really the bottom line in entrepreneurship.
There's absolutely. There's a famous quote, and the quote is, luck is 98% hard work. Now, there are people, Gene, that think that you are lucky. You're lucky. You just happen to be walking down the street, and all of this was, all that you've achieved was just placed before you. That's not the case. Now, I think that I've taught students for years and years, high school students for a very long time, and what I teach them is that you don't have to have a job. And there really is no security in a job, because you could be fired from your job as a result of a bad swing on a golf course because the CEO of a company had a bad day. He swings the club. The ball doesn't go where he wants it to go, and he goes, "That's it, fire that division." And the division has nothing to do with anything that relates to him playing golf. He's just having a bad day. He decides to sell a division, and the next thing you know, the division is bought by a new owner, and the new owner says, "We got to reduce costs," and you lose your job. So, I mean, there are things that can happen that are removed from you actually doing a good job at your job, and so you really don't have security by working for an employer, but you do have whatever security you make for yourself by being an entrepreneur. So here's what I would teach our students. That if you are really passionate, if you're a fly fisherman and you really love doing that, well, why don't you start a company making flies, lures? And so that, I mean, if that's what you like to do, you can create a business, start selling them on the internet. If you like machinery and you want to be a welder, learn about that. And how many guys, and we're talking about gunsmithing now, how many guys like guns? Probably most of us, right? Well, wouldn't it be neat to turn that hobby, that passion, into an income stream? And you can do it. You absolutely can do it. And in my case, and I know in Gene's case, Gene, what was the last time that you owned a vineyard before this one? Isn't this your first vineyard?
Oh, yeah. And I'm learning every day. I've had, associations with a business in the past where I learned some things. But, yeah, this is the first vineyard. It's only one of many things I do. But it, this place gives us a level of independence in addition to our businesses because, we've got our own water sources. We have power here. There's ability to kind of go off the grid and still live in a beautiful place. Like I said, hot air balloons go over every morning. It's just gorgeous here in Napa Valley, California. But, I got to hit on, you just hit on so many great things. One, I will say, yeah, I've made a lot of choices that pushed me forward. It wasn't handed to me. I don't have any fancy degrees or anything like that. And I didn't ask for permission. But I will say, I'm God blessed. I'm not lucky, but I have been blessed by the Lord. But, choice. I've made choices. And I'm encouraging your listeners to make choices and get the education or the skills they need so they can go their own direction, no matter what happens.
Let's start that business when we come back on the other side of the break. Gene Kelly, Vincent Finelli, USA Prepares. Gene Kelly's with us, and some people think that those who seem to be better off than others are lucky, and here's an expression that one of our instructors has used privately with me, and he says, Vinny, the harder I work, the more I'm blessed. And, there's a lot of truth to that. However, he loves what he does. And what he means is it doesn't come by accident. It doesn't, it just doesn't land. It's not like you win the lottery and this just happens. It's passion driven by effort. And Gene, I'd like to share with you, you're a farmer, you're a grape grower, a wine grower, and I'm a farmer. And, we both are independent, but farming has tax advantages. Now, I live on the business. Here's another way of saying it. I live at the business, okay? I live on a farm, and because I live on a farm, I have to have land for the cows. And because I have to have land for the business, I have land as a benefit to me. So I have more independence because of my lifestyle. And that was a choice. I don't live in the suburbs. I don't live in the city. I live on the business. I'm surrounded by the business, but it's 24 hours a day. So it's not like I can leave and just enjoy the benefits of having land when I feel like it. I have responsibilities that come along with it. So I wanted to share this with you. I wanted to do an expo, and I had never done one before. And in order to do the expo, I needed to promote it. In order to promote it, I needed to buy some advertising. So I went to a radio station, and I said, I'd like to buy some advertising. I talked to the general manager. Next thing I know, I'm offered 1 hour a week on the air, a radio show right after Dave Ramsey. I mean, how do you follow Dave Ramsey when your first broadcast following a nationally syndicated talk show host who's excellent, Dave Ramsey? I mean, how do you do that? So you do it by preparing. I was absolutely terrified to do it. I mean, going against, he's one of the big guns, And so I prepared and I prepared and I prepared, and I took about a week or two, and I got ready, and I went live, and then like a year later, our college-age son was asking me. We were talking about, what's it like, Dad? What's it like, doing this radio thing, doing 3 live broadcasts a day? What is that like? And I said, well, it's like having 3 final exams a day. But you know what? You can meet those challenges. You literally can meet them and have fun doing it. And that's what entrepreneurship really is. It really is. So let's build our business, Gene.
Well, yeah. Again, if people are just joining us, they've heard. Well, let's illuminate for them. Choice. You made the choice. You said it again. Choice where you live. Choice what you do. And people think they don't have choices, but they still do. Take that desire that they have, water it, get the education, and then take action. And that is really all what an entrepreneur does. And we burst through, we break through any kind of fear or limiting ideas. And that's what you've done over and over again, how you started this thing, how you did the expo, all that kind of stuff. And, hey, and it doesn't all work the first time out of the chute either. If people are looking for an easy button, I haven't found one yet that really works. What I have found is take the desire that you have, go get the education, and then work with, learn from, be continuing learning from people that have done it, like yourself, like I've been privileged to do. Our vineyard out here, I've actually contracted out a lot of the work so that I do have the freedom to travel. That's why we went to 20 countries this last year, my son and I, as part of our work and education. I have a large barn on the property, 5,600 square foot barn, that is upstairs offices. It's in addition to our other facilities around. We have a couple other offices, but offices here and a video production facility downstairs. And that's how we really film a lot of the videos for AmericanGunsmith.com, the educational.
So what Gene Kelly's saying is that he owns the business, the property, and he can work at home. I'm Vincent Finelli. We'll talk more about it when we come back. Gene Kelly's with us. Gene, I'd like to start 2 businesses today very quickly, and let me lead in with a little story. About 23 years ago, I bought a farm, and I needed a bush hog in order to trim the pasture. And I bought a small 6-foot bush hog that you pull behind the tractor, and it would cut fields and cut saplings 1.5 inches in diameter. And so I was able to prepare the fields and by cutting down these saplings and tall grasses. And I've been using it every year since I bought it. So it's 23 years old, and it has these metal skids on the bottom that as you pull it behind your tractor, as it comes in contact with the earth, they wear out. Well, here I am looking at, what do I do? I've worn out the skids. So I decided to go to Craigslist and find, I did some research, and I decided to buy a welder. And I bought a Lincoln. I think that's probably a pretty good value for what I'm doing. I bought a Lincoln AC 225 welder. And I paid $250 on Craigslist. I wanted one that was almost new, but I didn't want to spend the $500 for a new one. So I bought this used one. It came with welding rods and everything I need. So I'm going to practice and become somewhat proficient in welding, and I'm going to start with this bush hog that I need to repair. So that was my desire, and for $250, I think with some training, I could be in the welding business. Is that right or not?
No, absolutely it is. You know, a lot of people have done exactly what you're doing and quite honestly have been frustrated with their welding because if they don't understand certain key aspects, they're going to end up with welds that are weak, that break at the wrong time very dangerously, that look awful, that they're embarrassed by, and so on. But what we developed at, you know, the Accelerated Technical Training Institute was a method of teaching any type of trade skill by getting people to understand what success looked like and to be able to envision that in their mind. So we took everything we learned from almost 20 years at the American Gunsmithing Institute, you know, and brought that teaching method over to this distance education on video. Now, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, moving pictures with words are worth tens of thousands of words, right? So
sure.
With welding, I mean, I took welding in high school. It was frustrating. I ended up getting pretty good at it, but, you know, then I went on to use it in gunsmithing and so on. People wanted to learn how to weld. It's hard. You can't hold somebody's hands and really teach them. They can't look over your shoulders in a structure and really see what you're doing. But when we show you in our courses the entire screen filled with a molten puddle of metal, and you see the motion of the gas tip, which is the same for electrical rod, MIG, TIG, whatever, and you see the filler rod, and you see the motion and the control of that molten puddle, all of a sudden the lights go on. And we're firm believers, in fact, we've proven it through our gunsmithing, through all the other trade skills that we teach, you know, again, welding, plumbing, electrical, etc., is that if I can show you and place in your mind what success looks like, you can teach your hands to do it. That's where it has to start. You have that vision. Okay, now I understand what that moving molten puddle is supposed to look like. I understand the motion of the tip. I understand the movement of the filler rod. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Now your hands know what to do. Otherwise, you're clueless, you're frustrated, you're trying to look over someone's shoulder or whatever in some of these welding classes. And that's why our method is called the Accelerated Training Method. It's something we developed to teach these core concepts, which is what we do again in firearms. We teach design, function, and then repair. You can't fix it unless you understand how it works. Well, video and with instruction, it makes that so clear because we give close-ups you couldn't see from the front row of a classroom, let alone, you know, the back of the classroom. I mean, just very clearly showing you what needs to be done, how things work, and so on. So absolutely, you could learn that skill. You can learn all those other skills. In fact, we have a program that we're doing right now. It's developing a brand-new program where we teach 7 different trade skills together. We teach welding, machining, locksmithing, plumbing, electrical, masonry, and carpentry. 7 skills. You have those 7 skills, you can totally go off the grid. You're independent. You'll be in demand. You can do the different, start your own business you want, whatever. But we teach them quickly via video, giving you the real things, those nuggets that you need to know, and then we link them all together. Anyway, we have a group right now that has gone through, and we're starting our second proof of concept, what we're calling the Genesis Project, because my belief is we've got to restart how trade skills are taught in this country. We've got to get around the fact that all these people are getting these pieces of paper through college. They don't know how to do anything. So the Genesis group, and in fact, your listeners will get privy here to something that's special. I haven't made this widely available anywhere else. If they go to instanttradeskills.com, instanttradeskills.com, they can see what the Genesis group is all about and how they could get in on the beta testing of this course and actually acquire all these skills for pennies on the dollar. But the old concept of number of hours butt in seat, as I like to call it, the old way of teaching job skills needs to go the way of the dinosaurs. It is no longer the way we can afford to teach people, and people can't take 4 years to learn a trade skill. You need to know it quickly. You need to learn it fast, and you need to learn more than one skill. Because if you only know how to do one thing, I can only do electrical work. What if something needs to be built? You need to put in a pump motor on your farm, for example. Well, you might need to weld together a bracket. You might need to pour a foundation for the mount. You might need to build a shed around it. You want to wire it. Do all the electrical work, including wiring the shed, maybe running conduit and electrical out to it, putting in a sub panel, whatever. If you put in the locks to protect it, all of those things, maybe machine a mount. You can have all those skills yourself and possess those skills, which all of a sudden you're independent. You don't need to go out to 7 different trade people to try and get them to do the work for you. And, of course, you can see how valuable it is when you're trying to make a choice in life. When we went back to choices, am I going to stand being a greeter at Wally World, or will I be able to be in control of my own life, doing my own repairs, saving a lot of money, and offering those skills to others? There's a lot of people that semi-retire into being the handyman because it's interesting for them, and they can make actually very good money. You take a college graduate today, and you compare that against what a competent handyman or tradesman makes, and, I mean, a plumber these days. Good grief. In some of the urban areas, plumbers make almost as much as doctors. It's crazy, but it's not crazy. The reason that's the case is there's a dying out of these job skills, and we're trying to preserve them for the future. Anyway, so if they want to go check that out at instantTradeSkills.com, there's a short video up there. Actually, it's a rather long video, explains the whole thing. But that's not going to be available in the future. That was just something that's up there temporarily. So if they're interested in that, I'd suggest they write it down and go check it out after your show.
And I'll InstantTradeSkills.com. And I went there as you were talking about it, and I'm going to put it on the page 1 on the website class. There'll be a post about that.
Okay.
Gene, you were talking about some of those skills, and for you to live on your farm, and for me to live on my farm, I have to have all those skills. Gene, I had never built a house before. I mean, I'd certainly renovated, but I'd never built one from scratch. I had the confidence to be able to do it. I took my son out of school for 18 months. He was 15 years old, and I thought, as you took your son around the world, I took my son out of his homeschooling environment. We stopped all his classes, and we learned about how to build. And we learned about plumbing, we learned about electricity, and we used the math that he had learned already. We talked about, Romex wire 12-2 with ground costs X amount per foot, and we can run 100 amp service entrance cable and to sub panels, and the sub panels cost X amount. And we applied the math that he learned to building construction. And we talked about real world stuff. So electrical, masonry, carpentry, and he knows the things he likes to do. He knows the things he doesn't like to do. He's not crazy about sheetrock. He's certain of that. And
well, he can do it.
And it got him a scholarship in school because he got a full ride to 4 years, except for room and board, because of his ability to know how to do these things. So here we have knowing trades. Believe it or not, this is exactly backwards. Knowing trades and being a farmer and knowing what hard work really is got him a scholarship. Amazing, right?
Well, I have an associate of mine that's becoming a friend, and he started off as a painter, okay? He now runs a publishing empire that does several $100 million a year in business. And he took his son to another country where they have a farm, a very large farm, and they built a house out of in this remote area, and built a lot of it out of stone and so on. And we were talking, comparing notes about educating our kids. And I said, so what was the best thing you did a year that he took with his son? And he said, it was building that house. And he said the reason was it was hard. It was really hard. But his son understood afterwards, after doing something hard, that, boy, look at all the things I could do that I didn't think I could do. And I know with my son, he had to be video producer as we went around the world. And he was even instructing guys with 25 years worth of experience. He was directing them. It was hard. But he had learned the skills working with us. And now he understands that he's capable of doing so much more than he thought he could. So anyway, going back to our whole topic here, I would encourage people, make choices, get that burning desire, water that burning desire, get the information, knowledge they need, and then push through the fear and become self-reliant, become independent, get the job skills.
Gene, you're an author, and I'd like to ask you about your book when we come back on the other side of this break. Gene Kelly, AmericanGunsmith.com. We'll be right back. Class, in the 1980s, I had a job, and I wanted to become financially independent, to control my own destiny. And there was a course that was offered. It was advertised at $495, 2 days of seminars. And back then, $495 was a lot of money to me. And so, and Mrs. Finelli was working at the time, and so was I, and I talked to her about it. And I said, I'd really like to go to this course. It's a 2-day seminar over the weekend. It's a lot of money, but we can minimize the risk because they offer a, if you go on Saturday and you decide that you want your money back by noon, you can have all your money back. So there was a minimum amount of risk for me going. Half the money was hers. I mean, she earned half of it, and I earned half of it, so I would be spending her money. So I talked to her, and I think it's important to have your spouse involved in this decision if you decide that you want to become an entrepreneur, because it's a lifestyle change. And so she said, yeah, go ahead, do it. So I did go to this class, and that set me on my path to becoming financially independent. Not wealthy, financially independent, where I can control my own destiny. It was a course on how to buy real estate. So Gene Kelly, here's where I'm going with that. How do we minimize the risk? You offer courses for sale and people buy them, but what if they decide that, it's not for them?
Well, good question, Vince, because, I believe if you have a great product, you stand behind it, you eliminate the risk for other people, and then let them make a decision based on the value that they personally get out of it. So what we did, and we did this right from the beginning, and we've been offering gunsmithing courses for almost 20 years. This is our 20th year coming up in the fall. And that is, we give a 1-year money-back guarantee on our training courses. A 1-year money-back guarantee. If you can't figure it out in that amount of time, we get such a small percentage of returns, and sometimes, maybe the teaching method isn't for everybody, but for the vast majority of people, if they can see it, if they can hear the instruction, if they can get a picture of success in their mind, if they can understand the design and function when we're talking about gunsmithing, then they can be successful. They can teach their hands to do it. And so that's what we did. But all of these job skills that we teach, and again, in addition to AmericanGunsmith.com, where we have our gunsmithing courses, both for the hobbyists and they can click a link on that to go to the professional certified courses. We also have these courses in these other trade skills we talked about, the welding, plumbing, electrical, machining, masonry, blacksmithing, so on. And I saw such a need with all these kids being pushed toward college, pushed toward debt that doesn't go away, that I wrote a book. And the book I wrote is called The College Myth, Why You Shouldn't Go to College If You Want to Be Successful. Now, I'll say right up front, I'm not against higher education. I believe that education is a lifelong adventure. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. It's something that you need to be curious about. You need to constantly be educating yourself. and that you make a choice, that you want your life to change. You feed that burning desire with education and expand on that, and then you act and you move into doing whatever you want to do. But so when I wrote this book, my focus on that was to illuminate the lie out there that going out and getting a piece of paper and getting $250,000 in debt, or $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever it is for your education is not going to make you successful. What makes you successful is how you apply skills. And also, right now, if you look at the trend with the graying of America, we're losing the people that understand how to do things, how to build things, how to make things, how to repair things. So we spend millions of dollars, literally, in developing these courses to preserve all of this knowledge. And that's my number one goal. We've got to rebuild America that way. So anyway, if they go to that instanttradeskills.com, they'll see the whole story of that.
There you go, Gene Kelly. Hey, thanks so much for being with us, and I'm really looking forward to your teleseminar at the Get Prepared Expo. I think it's great how you can be an entrepreneur and take control of your own destiny, whether you've been fired, laid off, or just want to control your own destiny. I'm Vincent Finelli. This is USAPrepares.com. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.